So I'm giving this on behalf of Dr. Mark Thallman and myself, and to maybe give you a little background of the genesis of this talk. When we moved the guidelines to the current wiki format, there was a lot of discussion as we looked at things that needed to be incorporated from the old guidelines, and came to the realization, particularly as we thought about new trait complexes, there was some rethinking that needed to be done relative to how we described contemporary groups, and really this extends to all trait complexes, and not just in the way we describe them, but perhaps in the way we take them into account in genetic evaluations. So that's what we're going to try to go through here with some simulated examples as well. But we'll start with some proposed definitions. These are proposed definitions. One is contemporaries, which is animals that are managed identically in the same pasture and over the time that's most influential on the relevant traits. And I think that's really important. Over a period of time that is most influential on the relevant traits that we're going to collect. And a contemporary group designation would be a temporary code provided by breeders to the breed organization that uniquely identifies a group of animals as contemporaries, as we defined it above, within a batch of performance data. So that is breeders saying that these are groups of animals which we are designating as being contemporaries. And then a contemporary group identifier would be a code formed from what the breeder assigned and batch ID that within breed association data uniquely identifies a group of animals as contemporaries. So a contemporary group designation may not be unique within breed association data, and so that's why the contemporary group identifier is needed. And then a contemporary group effect is a term in genetic evaluations that accounts for the similarity of contemporaries relative to non-contemporaries. And then finally, in proposed definitions, there would be a management level code which indicates systematic differences between groups of contemporaries. And that may not be something that's needed for all breeders, but you can think about first calf heifers, right, where a lot of people would most certainly impose different management on them than they might other age classes of females. Or it could be differences between having animals on range or high quality pasture, or in a feedlot, or in a show barn, right, where clearly there are systematic differences that could impact the traits that we're measuring. And it would be ideal to have some sort of standardized codes, but also enable breeders to assign custom codes so that they can clearly differentiate these. And then range ID distinguishes cattle produced by the same breeder under similar conditions over multiple years. And in most cases, that could be the member ID of the owner of the cattle at the time the data is collected. But in some cases, there could be commingled ownership within a contemporary group. And so you can think about family operations where range ID could be constructed to represent the group of owners that commingle the cattle. So in an example, you could have a ranch, right, a family business, where there may be multiple breeders. Every one in the family has some kind of breeder ID, but really the cattle are being managed the same way. So that kind of gets around that issue. So to use Mark's phraseology here, deprecated definitions would be contemporary group. And the problem is we went through the guidelines revision as we realized that contemporary group had really been conflated to mean a lot of different things. And so contemporary group had been used to describe what we call contemporaries, so animals that were indeed managed the same way, but then contemporary group was also used as the effect that was actually fitted in the genetic evaluation. And those are different things, right? Those are different things. So you can think about a contemporary group effect that a lot of people fit now in models that would have the concatenation example of sex as part of the contemporary group effect. But the reality is contemporaries really include multiple sexes together. And so we're saying that this phrase has been conflated and is relatively confusing now. So to provide some examples here of contemporary groups and different ways to actually model those, we're going to go through a series of simulated examples. And just to orient you here on the y-axis, the trait is weaning weight, and so that's in pounds. We have 7 different contemporary groups here denoted by different symbols. And so to start off with, we have 3 different models, if you will. So the red bars denote what we call the current model, which is the fixed contemporary group effects. The proposed model, where we have a range ID, and then the proposed model where we have random contemporary group effects. And so this first slide kind of helps maybe illustrate the difference between fixed and random effects. Theoretically, it would make sense to me that contemporary groups would always be fitted with random. And I say that because in most other industries, that would make complete sense. Because I think by definition, they represent something that is indeed a random effect. However, there are unique situations in beef cattle that may preclude doing that if we want to avoid bias, and we'll go over that more. But if we just think about fixed effects, really we're creating an adjustment for those effects, and historically that's the way contemporary groups are modeled. Random effects allow this regression towards the mean, and requires a separate mean for each contemporary group effect. And that regression towards the mean, as we'll show out later, is really dependent on the amount of data contained in the contemporary group in terms of how much is regressed back towards the mean. So smaller contemporary groups should be regressed more towards the mean. So, as I mentioned, fitting contemporary groups as random effects, theoretically this is correct, and I'd argue that if I were in other industries, as I said, that's the way I would do it. But the structure of beef cattle performance recording requires maybe an intermediate solution. And to be, I guess, candid, and what I mean by that is, in the beef industry, right, breeders compete against each other. And that competition may mean that I want to add weight to my calves through non-genetic means, right? Feed or otherwise. And so we need to be able to account for that to ensure that as I do that, I'm not artificially inflating the estimates of genetic variants as well. And so it requires range ID by year, by management level code that is a fixed effect to help guard against, if you will, those kinds of biases. What I would say, though, in terms of fitting contemporary group as a random effect is it changes maybe the way we define heritability. So heritability, if you think about it as the additive variance over the phenotypic variance, that phenotypic variance when we fit fixed effect of contemporary group has the contemporary group adjusted out. If we fit contemporary group as random, then it would make sense that heritability is the additive variance over really the additive variance plus the contemporary group variance plus the residual, right? And so we've got to think about really which heritability we want to use. So the other point we wanted to make is really the delineation between model-derived and true accuracy. And so model-derived accuracy is computed from the model given the data structure, and it's only as good as the model assumptions. And I think more specifically, it's only as good as, well, I guess the other way to say it is, does the data match the model assumptions? I think is maybe the right way to say it. Really what we're interested in is true accuracy. That's really what drives response to selection. And in simulation, that's easy to get at. It's the correlation between the true and predicted values, because in simulation, we know the true values. And the point is that as the model assumptions are violated, we run the risk of decreasing true accuracy. And it's possible that if we incorrectly combine groups of cattle that are not contemporaries, that we could actually do so with the sacrifice of true accuracy. And so what this represents here, again, 7 different contemporary groups, and the red bar denotes a fixed contemporary group effect. Oops, sorry, see if I can go back. The blue bar represents the fixed range mean effect, and then the dotted represents random contemporary groups, which is what we propose. And here you can see the different regressions towards the mean. And what happens is if we incorrectly imagine a breeder incorrectly thinks that if I group together animals that truly should not be grouped together, and I do so because I want a larger contemporary group, thinking that that's going to lead to larger accuracy values, what might happen is I actually do get larger model-derived accuracy, but because I incorrectly grouped animals together, I actually could get lower true accuracy. So the point is if you have animals that should not be grouped together, but you do so thinking you're creating an advantage in accuracy, you could actually be shooting yourself in the foot. And here on this slide, the top and bottom panes represent adjusted phenotypes from the point, from the case where you fit random contemporary groups versus where you fit them as fixed. And the panes in the top, or the adjusted phenotypes in the top pane are much less variable than those in the bottom. And so the point is the bigger contemporary groups are not always better if they're incorrectly formed. They're composed of groups of cattle that have far different means. And so the numerical values that you'll see here in these 2 tables, we have 5 different sires with simulated offspring, and it shows the number of offspring. I didn't change these column headings, but I should have. The new model versus the old model, that's really what we call the proposed model versus the current model. And so we have model-derived and true accuracies here for both. And if we actually take into account this random contemporary group effect, we can actually increase true accuracy compared to the way perhaps we do it now, at least in these examples. And I also point out that these are on the BI scale, the accuracy values. So. But if we're going to fit random contemporary groups, they need to be regressed towards something, and having the range ID as a fixed effect to regress them to makes sense. Here we've got 7 contemporary groups, and it may be a bit hard to see. The contemporary groups are actually differentiated by the different shapes of symbols here. And contemporary groups 3, 4, 6, and 7. It's a bit hard to see, but you can hopefully see which contemporary groups I'm talking about. We're all simulated to exactly the same mean, but you'll see by the dashed bar here, which represents fitting contemporary groups as a random effect, right? The regress towards that fixed range mean differentially, and the regress differentially proportional to how many animals are in the contemporary group, right? So the larger degree of regression when those groups are actually smaller. The other thing I would point out is that correctly accounting for contemporary group structure, instead of combining a bunch of animals that may actually come from different ranges together, or certainly were treated differently, if we can actually correctly account for the structure better, we can increase true accuracy. And that's shown here by comparing the new versus the old true accuracy columns. The other thing we wanted to make mention of is this notion of parsing systematic effects. So we've illustrated in the small simulated example that Mark did that it's better to report separate groups that have been made. That it's better to report separate groups that have been managed similarly as separate groups by accounting for them in a random contemporary group. And differences in expected mean could be accounted for by the fixed effects of range ID, year, and exists management level code. But it's equally important not to divide groups managed together into separate contemporary group designations when breeders report them to breed associations. So an example, our concern was that if breed associations say our contemporary group effects are herd, year, season, sex, breeders might think, well, that's the definition I should use when reporting contemporaries. And we don't want breeders to make that their definition of contemporaries. Because certainly pre-weaning, the sexes, bulls and heifers, may be truly treated the same, right? So we don't want breeders to make that delineation when they're reporting contemporaries to breed associations. And the other thing we at least want to bring up is the potential of fitting, and we've got a slide up for it here, is cross-classified effects. So instead of concatenating something like sex in the contemporary group effect that's fitted now, it could actually be fitted separately as a cross-classified effect. But there's no way to do that if in the data that comes into a breed organization, we don't have the ability to delineate which animals are truly contemporaries and have that separate from these cross-classified effects like sex, twins, products, CT, etc. So the fundamental concepts which we find interesting is one that animals that were given the same opportunity to perform for a trait complex should be considered contemporaries, and as such, it should be possible that contemporary groups don't continue to get smaller over time, right? And so that I think it's fair to say it's bothered us that as animals progress through life, the contemporary groups continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller because all we do is concatenate all the groups over time together. I mentioned the fitting of cross-classified effects, which could include sex and pre-weaning traits. If we look at the potential differentiating ET versus AI and natural service, differentiation between IVF and MOIT, we need to know were those animals truly contemporaries with other animals, and then that could enable us to actually fit a cross-classified effect later on. So fitting multiple contemporary group effects per trait. This gets to the comment I made about continually subdividing contemporary groups. Mark brought up that we almost do it for weaning weight. So weaning contemporary group for weaning weight and post-weaning gain, or post-weaning contemporary group for post-weaning gain. With the exception of the rule that we impose that we can't combine contemporary groups. And we don't estimate the relative contribution of those two contemporary groups, the pre-weaning and post-weaning, on the target trait. But we could do that if we fit random contemporary groups. So you could imagine that we fit a random contemporary group effect for pre-weaning, and a random effect for post-weaning, and we estimate the relative contribution of those two random contemporary group effects to the target trait. And there's a lot of things we could do that for, like ultrasound, cartilage traits, calorie productive rates, etc. Anytime that animals through their life migrate through different groupings. Age ranges, guidelines, and age adjustment. This first, I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Mark, but the first comment is not my wording, but perhaps not the issue at once was with current ridiculously short breeding seasons. Mark thinks breeding seasons are too short, but part of the benefit of fitting contemporary groups is random is we can also assume that there's a covariance structure between those contemporary groups. And so if you think about birth weight slices as an example, so you take whatever 30 or 45 days that the calves are born in, you group them together, go on to the next 30 or 45 days during the calving season, and group those animals together. If we were to fit those as random, we could actually fit kind of an autoregressive covariance structure, perhaps be able to better account for the information or the connectedness in time between those contemporary groups. We'd argue that all cattle managed in a group and measured on the same day should be contemporaries, And for many traits, and we list them out here, it would make sense to fit a random within contemporary group regression on age. And Mark points out that an important age-dependent effect that occurs in many contemporary groups is the transition from AI sire to clean-up cows. We also think it's important as we think about contemporary group structures to reward high-quality data and proper contemporary group formation. And one way to do this would be able to estimate residual variance on a per contemporary group, and maybe that's too refined, but you could do it on a per breeder by year basis. And so it's really the notion of a residual heterogeneous residual variance. And so a way to think about that is we're saying that some data is better than other data. And you can think about a metric that could be reported back to breeders as almost a within herd, or in this case, a within breeder by year kind of effect. We could report back within that class heritability and compare it back to the mean heritability, maybe of the breed, to give the breeder a sense for how good is the data. So this is a way that you could reward high quality data. And it leads to more robust estimation instead of kind of a rules-based approach to removing outliers, because it's not keen at all on setting up these kind of ad hoc rules or removing data based on something that's 4 or 5 standard deviations, because those data are possible, maybe not likely, but they're possible. And so, of course, I have the last note here about a metric to report back to breeders to get a sense of what their data quality is. So where do changes need to be made? We're suggesting that there's some changes that need to be made to the IF guidelines to differentiate terms. This kind of conflated contemporary group that could mean contemporaries or in fact fitted in the genetic evaluation. And I think making those things much more clear in guidelines helps define terms for future technical staff. Because over time, the people that write the guidelines all around to ask what the intent was, and so we need to make that clear. For breeders, the take home is correctly group animals. So don't force animals together to try to increase size in hopes that you're going to increase accuracy when the animals really shouldn't be grouped together. Breed associations, I think the data that's collected needs to allow the opportunity to differentiate subclasses so that we can investigate the possibility of fitting some of these cross-classified effects. Changes to genetic evaluation admittedly may come longer term in terms of investigating fitting this kind of fixed effect that may be range ID by year, by management level, and in random contemporary groups. But it would be interesting to investigate not only the impact of that, but also the impact of fitting some of the cross-classified effects that we mentioned. And there's a lot of applications of concepts that we've gone over here for a lot of trait complexes. Birth, an example, should reflect actual contemporaries. Pre-weaning, it would make sense to combine the sexes, and you can fit a cross-classified sex effect. Yearling, you could fit both the pre-weaning and post-weaning contemporary groups separately. And then for stuff like disease, you can have random effects of pins. And so the random effects can make better use of information, particularly in some trait complexes. If I think about disease, where animal records may be limited to begin with, so it could be advantageous to investigate fitting random contemporary groups. So I think that's the end of our slides here, and I don't know where I am on time, but I wanted to leave plenty of time for not only questions, but I also believe Mark will likely want to jump in and make some comments too, so I wanted to allow time for that. So maybe now, Mark, if you want to unmute and feel free to add anything.
Yeah, Matt, one thing I realized as you went through that is we didn't really button up that slide on data quality very well, because the real take home for that slide is that the reward for higher quality data is higher accuracy. And it's not just higher true accuracy or higher model derived accuracy. It's actually higher quality data if we fit the model correctly would result in an increase in accuracy of both types of accuracy. So both what you report with the EPD and having better quality data to make your own selection decisions within herd. And so we suspect there's quite a bit of variation in data quality between breeders, and that should be estimable. And we think it's something that it's a change to the genetic evaluation system. It's not trivial, but we think it's something we should be aiming for in the longer term.
Thanks, Mark, for that clarification, and maybe a bit of a plug for a talk tomorrow. So the idea that some breeders, right, use a digital scale to measure birth weight. Some breeders use a hoof tape. Some breeders maybe don't use either, but still report birth weight. Maybe that's the kind of way of saying that, right? But the model doesn't know that, right? The model counts, right, birth weights and assumes that they're birth weights. And so that's a violation of the assumptions of the model, and can create this difference between model derived and true accuracy. And so if we could do a better job throughout all trait complexes of rewarding higher quality data and differentiating that, there would be an advantage. Mark, was there, please, if there's something else that I skipped over, please feel free to comment.
No, that was the main thing I saw, Matt.
Yes, question.
Define high quality data and how is it identified?
So the question was define high quality data and how is it identified? Yeah. Mark, did you want to? Sure,
I'll take a stab at that one. So high quality data would be accurately measured. It would be put in an appropriate contemporary grouping structure. And the way that it would be quantified is that it's going to result in a lower residual variance. So residual variance is the variance that's due to measurement problems, environmental effects, incorrect model, and anything else that we're not accounting for properly in our model. And residual variance adds to the denominator of heritability. And so more residual variance means a less accurate prediction. And so breeders who are doing a good job will have data that fits the model a lot closer, and that'll have lower residual variance. And that will result in having higher reported accuracies and having EPDs that are more accurate at helping you to make the correct breeding decisions.
So the breed association can identify, they are able to look at the data that comes in and determine.
So the question is, would the breed association look at the data and determine it? And the answer is no. The goal would be to fit models that allow the models to tell us what data actually has a larger versus a lower residual variance. And model then differentiates higher quality versus lower quality data. So it's not a subjective, so we're not suggesting data quality be what I call a rules-based approach, right? So we expect the phenotypic variance to be this, and if it's not this, we kick it out, that kind of thing, right? We're saying we need to fit models to allow us to differentiate between high and low quality data.
So that's something that's done at the genetic evaluation level, not at the breed association level. And it's not a trivial change to make, but we know how to do it. It's more a matter of software changes and things like that would have to be done in genetic evaluation to do this automatically. And we make this change, it just happens seamlessly. And as Matt said, it's not an all or none thing. It's just on a continuous scale. But there would be a fairly simple metric, this breeder-specific heritability, that would let breeders know how they're doing. And, there could potentially be other diagnostic metrics that could help breeders to identify what they need to do in order to improve their data quality.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I know we're running against the break here.
Breed Association Executive, so if you're available and Mark available, if this gets adopted, you can go explain it to their breeders. So.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're talking, Mark,
I
to talk to the breeders that have low breeder heritability.
Yeah. Just give them a round of applause. Thank y'all very much.
Take a 2-minute break. We're working on some cases out here, and then we'll get back in that 2 minutes.
That was a total accident. I was just trying to look at it.